We got a big one in Talledega. Every time NASCAR goes racing in Talladega, we can expect some exciting racing. On Sunday, we witnessed the biggest pileup that has been recorded in NASCAR history. The big one caused chaos all over the circuit, and the chaos resumed after the crash as well. NASCAR has now come under a lot of criticism for the way they handled the pileup. With just 5 laps to go in Talladega, everything was on the line for the front runners. We had Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all fighting for the lead of the race. As the cars approached turn 3, Brad Keselowski decided to make a rather reckless move on Austin Cindric, who was ahead. Pushing cars in NASCAR is common, however, Keselowski didn't just give Austin a push. He gave a push while swerving the car from right to left. This put Cindric in a spin. Given that there were only 5 laps to go, all the cars were tightly packed together. So when Cindric spun in the front, it caused a major chain reaction that caused a 28-car pileup. This is the biggest recorded pileup in NASCAR history, and we'll continue to post the biggest news on NASCAR, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Very few drivers managed to escape. This included Brad Keselowski, the one who caused the major pileup, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who later went on to win the race. After the accident, a red flag was eventually waved, bringing the race to a stop. This allowed a few cars that could drive back to pit road to do so. However, many were still stranded on the track. But all the crew chiefs ordered the drivers to remain in the car. According to the regulations, if a driver is separated from their vehicle, they're disqualified from returning to the race. So it was vital for all the drivers to remain in the car no matter what the damage was. The damage to these cars was uncertain to the teams and NASCAR, so there was some confusion on what the recovery teams needed to do with the cars. Last weekend in Kansas, we saw Josh Berry get flat on all 4 of his tires and was not able to drive back to the pits. NASCAR then made the call to tow the car straight to the garage, not allowing the crew the opportunity to fix the car and continue. But this weekend was an entirely different scenario. This weekend, we saw NASCAR towed Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott, who were involved in the crash. Both of them suffered damage and were unable to drive back to the pit road. However, NASCAR ordered the tow truck to take these 2 cars straight to the pits and allowed the crew to repair them. This sparked major confusion and controversy, as Josh Berry did not receive the same treatment the previous race. So what does the DVP actually entail? This was one part of the confusion. Another part was the pace car. After the incident, a red flag was thrown, meaning that the race would be stopped. No pace car and no NASCAR cars would be allowed to move. Only the recovery vehicles will be allowed to move in order to clear the incident. And this is exactly what happened. Then the yellow flag is thrown once the track is clear, so the drivers get the chance to warm up their vehicles. But this time, when the yellow flag was thrown, the pace car did not move. This caused even more confusion and controversy. So 2 aspects that created the chaos and confusion: the DVP and the pace car rules. So now let's get down to it. Starting with the DVP. NASCAR is a private organization and they have the right to change the rule according to each unique situation. This is no fixed rule. What NASCAR says, NASCAR gets. But NASCAR themselves were confused about what to do. Chase Briscoe said he was originally told to exit the car, but he remained in the vehicle. It was confusing, Briscoe said. We had 10 different stories of what to do, between they're going to do the air jacks and then you had to get out. Then they're going to push you and then they were going to tow you. Then they're going to push you again. It just constantly kept changing. The air jack deal, it got a little bit sketchy for a while because there's like 5 or 6 of us that have the air jack, a device that officials can pump air into to help raise the car when it has multiple flat tires. And we're all trying to do burnouts and move and we can't do anything. So they told me to get out. Then they told me they were going to push me. Then they told me they were going to tow me. And then they told me to get out, and then they told me they were going to push me. It literally just changed non-stop. Like every 30 seconds, they come up to tell you something new. The team is telling you something totally different. The guys working the crash, they're at the mercy of whatever they get told. So I know they're doing everything they can. But definitely probably need to figure out just a better way to do that. Eldon Sawyer, NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition, explained how officials responded in trying to get the cars back into competition that could continue. First and foremost, our goal is never to put good cars out of the race, he said, referring to cars that could continue. When we developed the damaged vehicle policy, that's never been the goal. Based on our experiences last week at Kansas with Berry, we felt like, we probably could have made a different call there. We had a good car that probably just needed tires last week. As we went into this week, we wanted to err on the side of the competitor. Again, we don't want to put good cars out of the race. We had a situation in turn 3 where we've got 25 plus cars down there. We are not sure why they can't continue. We don't know if it's strictly because they're in the grass or they're high-sided. So for us to make a determination that they've got some suspension damage and can't continue, that puts a lot on us. Once we get Briscoe and Elliott back to pit road, they made their small repairs that they can make on pit road and went out and met minimum speed. So we felt like we made the right call there. Technically speaking, Briscoe and Elliott should not have been able to continue the race. However, NASCAR felt that they would be taking 2 good cars out of the race and eventually decided to keep them both in. So what about Josh Berry in Kansas last weekend? Well, NASCAR just didn't think it through then. This weekend, they did. Like I said before, NASCAR is a private organization and feel that they can do whatever they want. Coming to the next controversy about the pace car, Elton Sawyer gave an explanation here for that as well. We had all intentions to roll the caution vehicle as soon as we pulled the red and displayed the yellow, he said. The race director noticed some things that were still going on in turn 3 where he couldn't do that, get cars moving. We had safety equipment that was still moving around there, so just for the safety of it all, held the caution vehicle for a little longer. We had some cars on pit road that got the opportunity to do a little bit more work before those other cars could get there. Sawyer went on to say, every circumstance is different. We're going to do our absolute best to make the best calls with the best information we have in front of us. Again, technically speaking, NASCAR should not have changed the red flag to a yellow flag before all recovery vehicles and personnel were clear from the track. But someone clearly jumped the gun and lived to regret that decision immediately. Since there were still active cars moving around turn 3 when the yellow flag was waved, the race director decided to hold the pace car. This was a mistake on NASCAR, but again, they are a private organization and can get away with things like this. Given these recent decisions NASCAR has made, it's pretty clear that the sport is run like a dictatorship. This is one of the reasons there's so much debate between the teams and NASCAR regarding the new charter agreement. 2 teams have even decided to file an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR. The teams are looking to gain more power over the governing of the sport. This will allow them to play a part in determining the sport regulations of NASCAR like the DVP. However, NASCAR is refusing to give them this power. But it's fairly obvious that NASCAR themselves are scrambling at the moment. The big one in Talledega proved it. NASCAR needs to clarify what is allowed and what is not allowed after a wreck. Otherwise, the teams and drivers will continue to be confused. Do you think NASCAR is failing to handle the sport fairly? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.